Hello, friends. Today, we're going to talk about some very simple things that weren't always so simple. There's a persistent myth about the filthy, stinky Middle Ages. Many movies show us dirty, ragged townspeople living in extremely unsanitary cities. But let me say right away, this isn't true. Yes, sanitation was a problem. Sewage often ran through open gutters in the middle of the streets. Clean water wasn't always easy to come by. That's all true, but people are still people, and basic hygiene and cleanliness have always been important. The real question is, how much effort did it take to stay clean? If you look at medieval European engravings, you won't see people dressed in filthy rags. Instead, they're wearing elegant clothes with white collars, women in bonnets, ladies with styled hair, and men with neatly groomed mustaches and beards, or even clean-shaven faces in later periods. But how did they manage to stay clean without modern hot water systems, washing machines, soap, or detergent? The answer is, with a lot of hard work, physically exhausting work. Laundry, for example, was done by a whole class of professional washerwomen. If you couldn't afford to pay them, you had to do it yourself. What a modern washing machine does in 40 minutes used to take hours or even days. Clothes were boiled in large cauldrons, rinsed, beaten, and, in ancient times, and even in the Middle Ages, soaked in human urine to remove stains. In short, doing laundry was a serious and time-consuming task. Toilets weren't much easier to deal with. Wealthy townspeople and aristocrats had toilet rooms, but they were nothing like the tiled bathrooms with toilets and showers we have today. Instead, they had a small room or a screened-off corner where they could use a chamber pot, which was later emptied into a cesspit or a barrel. Poorer townspeople simply dumped their chamber pots onto the streets, often without caring much about passers-by. And the famous story about wide-brimmed hats protecting people from falling waste? That's just a modern historical myth. In the 17th century, the bidet appeared, a small basin on legs used for intimate hygiene. But most medieval Europeans were peasants, and their bathroom situation was even simpler. They often relieved themselves on manure piles near their homes and cleaned up with a handful of straw. What about bathing? That was a whole other challenge. Heating water was expensive and time-consuming. Since the time of the Roman Empire, people knew about public bathhouses, but in the Middle Ages they weren't available in every city, and they weren't cheap. Most people, especially those in rural areas, washed at home. But how do you take a bath when you don't have an easy way to heat large amounts of water? In the Middle Ages, most cookware was either ceramic or wooden. Today, you can just put a 15-liter metal bucket on a gas or wood-burning stove, but back then, neither of those existed. Water had to be heated in ceramic pots in the oven or in a kettle over the fireplace. The hot water was then poured into a wooden tub where people bathed. Since heating and carrying water was so much work, people didn't bathe often, maybe once a month or even less. Families often shared the same bathwater, taking turns in the tub. However, daily washing wasn't completely neglected. People washed their faces and necks, the parts not covered by clothing, every day. They also wiped themselves down with a sponge soaked in warm water, sometimes with vinegar added. Even in the 18th and 19th centuries, early apartment buildings had no running water. People carried water in buckets. Wealthier residents could afford to order a large barrel of hot water, which was brought to their apartment, poured into a bathtub, and then, once used, carried back out and disposed of. Flushing toilets, water closets, only appeared in the 19th century. At first, they weren't even inside apartments, but placed in special stalls on stairwells. So, humanity has come a long way to reach the comfort we enjoy today. That's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you next time.